Chekyun. The header is good, and it's the giant defender John Tae-wook, and eventually Korea have broken the deadlock.
You're listening to the K-League United podcast, proud partner of Football Nation Radio.
Hello, 안녕하세요. Ryan Walters with you for another live edition of the K-League United podcast, and it is a very, very packed house this week. I am joined by Matthew Binns.
Hello.
Pete Hampshire.
Hello.
And somehow we talked him into it. Dan Croydon's here.
Good evening.
I mean, I don't know. Yeah, not much to talk about this week, guys. We're just going to have to try to fill the time in. And, neither division's really got a lot going on. But first, most importantly, Christmas decorations are not okay yet. Okay, give me Halloween before we get Christmas decorations. That's where we're starting, Dan, because I've got rage in my heart for everything else right now, but I love Halloween, and I'm starting there, and I want Halloween before Christmas decorations come up. So that's where
Where do you think Christmas decorations?
I was walking down the street the other day, and in one of the little side streets here in my neighborhood, they had the stars and all the little present lights up already, and it's not even November.
Well, there's a Hoff round the corner for me that's never taken them down.
Well, that's just television
the entire time.
Yeah, that's just smart. I'm not going to blame anybody for that, but yeah, well, okay. There's okay. There's a lot to get to this week, so
let's talk about the real horror show.
Okay, all right. Well, there's a lot to get to this week, so we'll just all right. We're going to start with the segment that I'm calling Choking Hazard, because Ulsan have done it again. Dan, I see the look on your face. We're going to get into that. We're going to talk about the weekend that was, and then we're going to look a little bit ahead to next week, and just as much as we can. And then we're going to just go up and down this roller coaster that is K-League right now. We're going to start with the lowest of lows, which is Matthew Binns getting another victory. That's about as it's as far down as we're going. Then we're going to talk about the greatest of escapes, because Incheon United, they've done it. It was a come from behind victory. They beat Busan 2-1. Fans were in the stadium. It was absolutely amazing. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about what that means for the relegation battle. And then we're going to kick a few of these guys out, and we're going to welcome George Slade in, and we're going to talk about K-League 2, because got to talk about K-League 2. And then for those of you listening to the podcast version, Paul Neat did an interview with Korean national team captain Cho So-hyun, which is absolutely fantastic, and really excited to have her on the podcast. And again, that is a podcast exclusive, so if you're watching live, unfortunately you won't be able to watch that, but that's what the podcast is for. Then we're going to come back, and we're going to have a jam-packed mailbag with 5 people in the Eulji Lewis Mailbag, so we've got all that to get to. But all right, okay, let's you know what, let's get into this, because two of you guys, actually, all 3 of you were at the game. Dan, I was hoping for your sake that you weren't, but you were there. You were all in the stadium. And Ulsan Hyundai, for the second year in a row, lost to Jeonbuk Hyundai. Well, it felt like a loss last year. It was a draw. They didn't get it done when they could have got it done with 1 game to go. And I'm just gonna. I have rage in my heart, but I'll let it out in a second. You know what, Matthew? Let's start with you, because you probably have some positives for Jeonbuk.
Oh, I do. I think obviously this segment is going to probably feature some targeted criticism of Kim Do-hoon, but I'm not 100% sure it's entirely warranted. I think that Jeonbuk actually played very well. I think we should give Jeonbuk some credit here as well. What they did on the pitch in terms of individual performances. Hong Jong-ho, the centre back, he had one of his probably best games in a Jeonbuk shirt. Son Jun-ho, while standing up and not lying on the floor rolling over in pain as he normally does, was solid. And Song Bom-kun, the goalkeeper, he was the official man of the match, and he'd done some solid saves, obviously overlooked by Cho Hyun-woo's fantastic penalty saves, but Song Bom-kun was also on form. Mm-hmm. But I'd say there was more to it than the solid individual performances. Ulsan were outthought tactically. Selection-wise, it was the correct defence. Cho So-hyun had been brought on left back to nullify Lee Chung-yong. Fit again, Lee Young was going to have to keep pace with Kim In-sung, and then they had Barrow on the bench, possibly because it sounded like he had a slight injury going by his Instagram post, but he was on the bench to come on for fresh legs later on. What Jeonbuk really did, and I can't take full credit for this because it's actually on the K-League official YouTube channel. It's all in Korean, so I'll do my best to translate some of it, but it looks at how Jeonbuk targeted Ulsan. And what they did, they put Lee Sung-gi on Won Do-jae. And by taking Won Do-jae out of the game, it got rid of that dynamic focal point that Ulsan often used to play out. And it's shown in the stats. This is Won Do-jae's least successful performance over 90 minutes. There is some 12-minute cameos that weren't great, but it's the least successful performance of the season. And all Jeonbuk did was just put Lee Sung-gi on him, and that meant Ulsan had to play out wide. And further to this, then Jeonbuk would often, they overwhelmed flanks in the attack. So when Jeonbuk were in possession, namely the right side, they tried to pull the entire midfield over to the right to create shorter passes and try and pull players like Hong Chul out of position. And that's what they did. Hong Chul often followed Han Kyo-won inside, and this then left a vacated space for Lee Young to keep pumping crosses in. All of this sounds very good, but the goal was actually from a mistake. So,
I mean, you gotta be there to get it.
Yeah, well, there was, and that was partly as well from Barrow being unmarked there on the left flank because people were, but
being unmarked.
But yeah, there was a lot of smart decisions made by Jeonbuk. Now, Kim Do-hoon did do things to counter it, but I'm gonna let Dan chip in really with the Ulsan stuff. But from a Jeonbuk perspective, people might, want to criticize Jeonbuk's performances every now and then, but this was done well from Jeonbuk. And if you, again, just go back to that Won Do-jae thing, is actually one of his other not so successful performances was in their last meeting, which was when Jeonbuk won then. And looking at the highlights then, it seems they did something similar, just nullify Won Do-jae. And I mean, that's all credit to the youngster. Like he's clearly such a strong point in this Ulsan side that you take him out of it and it alters their game plan slightly. But yeah, I'll let Dan really focus more on the Ulsan side of things.
And just before you hop in there, Dan, I just wanted to say we can't talk about mistakes without talking about Kim Ki-hee having a massive effect on this game again. And this is the second time this season that Kim Ki-hee has lost his mind in a game. The first time was a horror tackle. That was a deserved red card. This time, I have no idea what he's doing on that header. I have no idea what he's doing on that header. No clue. And then Barrow's just there, and I can't take credit for this one. As Pete said, Barrow wheels away in celebration.
Well, I put that tweet out. All of you know I put that tweet out.
Who came up with that one? Everyone's scrapping over it now.
No, it was Peter. Yeah.
But so Dan, let's come to you here because honestly, I give you full credit for coming on this week after last week, standing up for your man. And we will talk about Kim Do-hoon. But first, just general, what was your takeaway from this match?
Well, I mean, first of all, I got to go to the stadium for a start. That was
there you go.
That was absolutely brilliant. My last game, get this, my last game was it wasn't at Munsu Stadium. It was at the Civic Stadium. It was when we lost to Pohang on the last day of last season. So maybe I'm the bad omen.
Maybe you should start going.
It was absolutely brilliant to be there. I was, I was a bit emotional at kickoff, to be honest. Just the fact that I'm, able to attend a game and watch them, watch my team go for a title, when a lot of people are shut out. So I was a bit, I was a bit choked up at the beginning. Most of the season, I don't get to see us play well, unfortunately. I've been watching it on a screen whilst I've been washing up. And, I haven't got to shout out loud at them or vent any anger because obviously my wife just looks at me whilst I'm watching on my phone, like, why are you getting so excited? Or why are you throwing the spatula at the wall? So, yeah, that was brilliant to be there. But no, I mean, Matt summed it up well. This game, it was even, I would say, except for the fact that Jeonbuk were dictating it pretty much until they scored the goal. This was the problem for. I mean, there's two ways to look at this, and the way that I choose to look at it, and why I'm not that angry or even that sad, I'm just kind of accepted it, is because we've lost to Jeonbuk 3 times this season, and you can't really take a title off a team when you give them 9 points. If we cannot beat Jeonbuk at any point this season, then, maybe I don't like the word deserve the title, but it's no surprise that we've given up top spot if we cannot beat Jeonbuk. Moraes, really good tactics, actually, I thought. We played their game rather than forcing them to play ours. And, I don't know about the whole tactical side with Won Bu-jae. I thought he had a good game. He seemed to be the most progressive player we had, trying to pass forward. But yeah, I think Moraes, I put down here that it was a very Mourinho-esque win. They had to get a 1-0 win.
He'll take that.
I hope Joe's ain't listening. This will be going straight to his head. This will be loving this.
What are you talking about? He's got him on video chat. He's getting him in on that Skype call for the awards, man.
He's mine and Peter's new best mate as well.
It came through a mistake, but I mean, the goal was kind of coming. It was. Yeah. I obviously you can single out Kim Ki-hee. He, it's just a lumped ball upfield. He could have headed it forwards. He's tried to go back to the keeper.
Just clear your lines. K-League
defenders
hoof
he
the
did
ball
it 9
forward.
times out of he did it 9 times out of 10 in the game, and that one time he chose not to. Credit to Modu Barrow. He's a good player. He knows he'll make that run every single time, and the one time it pays off, they're there, So yeah, if we cannot beat Jeonbuk, then is it a surprise we've given up top spot? Probably
no,
not.
but that's the frustration, man. Like that's what's because it was right there this year. Peter, you were there. You were in Pohang actually when Ulsan got a thumping win, and that was early in the season. And you said that you were right next to the Ulsan folks in the press box, and they were going nuts and they were celebrating. But that was early in the season, and we talked about it at that time. Nothing mattered then. That wasn't an important game. And every time we see Ulsan on an important game, this happens again. And so you've seen them against the best in K-League this year. Did things look different or feel different in this match? Because I feel like you've seen Ulsan quite a bit this year.
Yeah, I think Ulsan were really unlucky at the weekend. It was a really even game. A couple of things that surprised us going into it was we expected Jeonbuk to not use their under-22 option in the lineup. So to see Cho So-hyun on the wing was a surprise, because in the game earlier in Jeonju, he just sacrificed that and went for a full overage lineup. Comparing it to earlier in the season, obviously Ulsan's last 2 games have been defeats, only 4 defeats this year. Just freedom of expression, and Junior struggled against Jeonbuk centre-backs, hasn't he? I mean, like Matt said, Hong Jong-ho was magnificent. And Junior didn't get a sniff. He even got taken off, which I know started quite a storm on Twitter. But to be fair to Kim Do-hoon, I'll defend him a bit. Junior wasn't looking like scoring, so you might as well try and switch up a bit.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, just speaking of defending. Before Ryan kicks into Kim Do-hoon, I mean, let's just quickly look at what he did to try and counter Jeonbuk here, what he actually did on the pitch. I mean, what he realised in the second half was he put Kim In-sung on the right. He switched Lee Chung-yong and Kim In-sung. So Kim In-sung was running at Chae Chul-sun, who's far slower. And then there was chances from Kim In-sung to score. He got through on goal a number of times. And then, he brought on subs. He brought on Lee Kun-ho as another striker because Johnson's not there. Johnson isn't an option, is it? So I brought on Kim Tae-wan, put Kim Tae-wan down the left, and took Junior off for Lee Dong-yeon, who's got pace. They needed pace to beat that Jeonbuk back line, try and get behind it. And I guess we do go hard on him. I guess we do. We've turned this bunker thing into...
When have they won a big game? When have they won when it matters? And okay,
well, hang on.
Let's talk about his substitution choices.
Ryan, this thing about big games. It's a league. They're all big games.
Then why can't he win when it's on the line? This is we've got Osri in the comments, by the way, watching live. Osri's brought up a fantastic point. Jeonbuk stumbled, and Ulsan didn't take advantage. They dropped points against Gwangju. They dropped points against Sangju. So it's not just that they can't beat Jeonbuk and Pohang, but at this point, it's 100% mental. There's so much talent on this team, and there has been since 2018, and they just keep stumbling. They just keep falling flat. And to me, that's coming from the top down. When we look at the substitution choices here, okay, Lee Gun-ho for Lee Chung-young, fine. Kim Tae-wan for Shin Jin-ho.
Kim Tae-wan was playing out on the wing. He switched to a 4-4-2, and he put Lee Kun-ho and Junior up front.
But why not put Lee Dong-yeon out there, though?
I'll let Dan take it more than me on that.
Right, because, my main criticism of Kim Do-hoon in this game was that he didn't start Kim Tae-wan. Jeonbuk in the first half were playing an incredibly high line, and we just needed to get in behind them with pace quite often. They were doing really well handling Kim In-sung. On the other side, we had the under-22 player Sol Young-woo, and he'd obviously been told to hang back a little bit. I think he should have started Kim Tae-hwan on the overlap, and then put the under-22 player further up on the right wing. But no, just to go back to Junior, it's been... I saw him live for the first time in ages, and it's since been confirmed by... I'm pretty sure it was his wife. I've met her a couple of times, and the photo looked a lot like her on Twitter. But basically, he's injured. He looked like he was playing at 50%. And yeah, he is playing at 50%. He's playing through the pain. I think, it was a lot like when I finally got to see them, it was a lot like watching one of the world's greatest bands, someone like the Rolling Stones or the Spice Girls. They're on an amazing world tour, and you finally get to see them, but it's their 50th night in a row. And you've got Jerry Halliwell. Do you leave her out of the band? You can't leave Jerry Halliwell out of the band, but they're just not the same without her. So I understand why they included Jerry Halliwell or Junior, but do you take him off for the last 15 minutes? Do you take Jerry off for Viva Forever? I don't know.
How close they came in the last seconds to getting that point, and then there'd been one win away from the title. It was literally inches, that free kick from Yoongbik Garam, and the one earlier in the game as well.
But on the point of them being gassed, this is also on Kim Do-hoon. Bjorn Janssen, he's not available in this game. He has 600 minutes this season. What the hell are you doing? Rotate your squad. Jason Davidson is frozen out of this side. He's in the press box for this game. What? Lee Gun-ho has less than 250 minutes. Lee Dong-yeon, who's been rumored with moves abroad all year, who's been trusted in this, has barely over 500 minutes. If the team is tired, rotate your squad. This is ineptitude at every level that sets them up to fail year after year after year. And once again, we got to get ready to watch Jeonbuk lift this title again.
Well, yeah, I think that's my main criticism, is that he played Junior. I think it was Gwangju and Daegu, the two games before the second game with Jeonbuk, just before the split. And after a tough summer, he should have rested him for at least one of those games.
And an FA Cup, and all over the place.
So yeah, I think fair enough criticism there. And to be honest, I'm done with him as well. I think Kim Do-hoon, he's he's like the Spice Girls manager, Simon Stewart from 1997. He's taken the band as far as he can.
as we all know. Yeah.
Sorry to go on about
I mean,
Spice World, but,
Spice World was like their, seminal album,
you know,
really.
it's a
Never going to
coping
top that.
mechanism, Ryan. It's a coping mechanism. I just need
Oh,
to
my goodness.
talk about something else.
All right. Well,
All
stop
right.
right now. Thank you very much.
All right. Well,
Hey.
speaking of talking about other things, we do got to get out of here. We got to talk about the other half of the K-League table. So we're gonna take a really quick break. We're gonna boot Dan out, but we're gonna bring him back for the mailbag. But we will be right back after a quick break.
Fans, we want to hear from you. You're encouraged to email KLU at info@kleagueunited.com or tweet at K-League United with any questions, comments or reactions. Or follow us on Facebook to ask directly during one of our live shows.
Welcome back to the K-League United podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Walters. I'm joined by a very smug, very smiley Matthew Binns.
Hello, I'm
who's
actually
just-
laughing at something in the comments. Paul Neat coming in with Ulsan wannabes.
Okay. You know what, I'm gonna push it all aside. I still have so much rage over Ulsan, just bottling it again and again and again and again, because it's tough to make neutral fans care about a league where the same team keeps winning year after year after year. But let's talk about the exciting side of the table. Well, both sides are exciting, but anyway, let's talk about Final B. And let's start. We're going to bury the lead a little bit here. Let's start with Seongnam. They went over to Suwon. Seongnam, a team that's just looked out of ideas. They had lost every game since the split, and they gave themselves a lifeline, but not without controversy in this one. I should say Na Sang-ho had a fantastic individual effort there. Daniil Henry, I don't know why you're giving Na Sang-ho that much space, but that's what happens when you give Na Sang-ho that much space. He certainly punished him there. So that brought it back to 1-1. And then there was the VAR call of the weekend. Suwon's Yang Sang-min gets booted in the face by Seongnam So-bo-min, who had just been subbed on. And that was a penalty kick to Seongnam.
It was a handball. It was a harsh handball, but it was a handball. It hit the hand before the boot hit the face.
Yeah.
You kind of have to give it, but then again, how do you punish for? The boot to the face wasn't intentional. I don't think anybody would have gone for a boot to the face. I think it could have been penalised under reckless play as well. But
yes,
I still think the penalty should have stood.
I agree. I think the penalty should have stood, but I do think that So-bo-min's. I mean, to me, honestly, I think that's a red, and I see the comments coming in as we're streaming live here. He keeps his foot up there. He keeps his foot up, and he could tuck his foot in and not kick someone in the face. And I mean, to me, I think it's reckless. I do agree, though. I think this is a penalty. It hits his trailing arm, as the rule is called now. That's a penalty, and Seongnam did what they had to do. They're not going to look a gift horse in the mouth on that one. And Kiss goes up and converts 2 penalties because the first one got called back. And so then he converts the second one, and they run away with 3 points that could have done it for them for the weekend. Gutty performance from Seongnam. And Pete, are you back with us now?
I'm back now. Yeah, I've switched over to my phone Wi-Fi. I actually thought the ref got it right. I know he's had a lot of controversy this season, but I know he kind of hung his leg up, but the momentum he's going with and the speed he's going at, I think he was like just waggling his leg about, wondering where to put it. And both the players are sliding on the floor out of control of their bodies. I mean, a definite pen.
It's a pen, but I mean, my thing is also that if Bjorn Janssen trying to get his foot on the ground by going around a player, and I don't even think he made contact in that one, to be honest. If that's a red, then this is a red. That's my only issue there.
Isn't it? It's the same in leagues around the world. It seems inconsistent refs, yeah. But for Seongnam, Na Sang-ho, we've mentioned a few times in the last few weeks, he's on a one-man mission, isn't he? To keep Seongnam up. I mean, the keeper should have done a lot better with his goal. But
and on that goal, though, he intercepted it and then ran half the length of the field as well. And I mean, yeah, like you say, Na Sang-ho is trying his absolute best to keep Seongnam up, and we'll come back to them in a minute because they're not out of it yet. That 3 points really helped, but then never doubt Incheon, ladies and gentlemen. The greatest of escapes is still on because despite the fact they were down 1-0, and honestly, that could have phased a lesser team, but they come back and Kim Dae-jung and Jung Dong-yoon both get goals within like 45 seconds of each other. It was on the kickoff of the reset that they went down and scored this other one. And I was so happy to have made the trip over there and be in the stadium because even at a reduced capacity, I mean, like Dan was saying about being in the stadium and fans being there, it just, my goodness, the feeling in that stadium was so amazing. And this is what Incheon fans are addicted to. And that is not a healthy relationship, I will say that, because it comes with plenty of suffering for Incheon. But the fight is in this team 100%. And it was amazing to see them do that. And I wish that we were seeing them play Seongnam on the last day because the form that both of them are in off of these games was fantastic. But Matthew, just a little bit on the Incheon game. Who is your MVP of that match? Because there are a lot of folks to pick from.
I don't know. I mean, the commentator, both of them. If you have not watched the highlights for that game, then please do. It's a contender for season 4. You'll be hearing it every week on this podcast for next week.
100%.
It was fantastic. It's just which bit do we choose? Do we choose what turned out to be the game-winning goal from Jung Dong-yeon, which, to be honest, we barely saw where we were watching it because we'd just got past the first goal and we turned away and suddenly, 2-1 down. We were watching it with a number of Busan supporters as well, so it went down my cheering probably wasn't as welcome as it should have been. But yeah, also, well, the one we're going to mention, I think, can't not mention is Rashid Mahazi, who, on the K-League Instagram, they often have like a goal of the day or an assist of the day. Save of the day went to him. The defensive midfielder.
Sure did.
I mean, perhaps it was more about Itae's incredible first save from point blank range, but then Mahazi dived in to stop it from what was a certain goal. And everybody's going mad. The crowd were going mad. The commentators were going mad.
Even the barman in the pub in Busan was enjoying it, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And I'd already annoyed him because I banged my head. I'm quite a tall lad, if anyone doesn't know, was watching. And I banged my head on the television. So I missed the first goal, recovering from that. And then I bought myself a pint. I sat down and they put a second goal in. So I had a shock.
Yeah.
But Ryan, you were in the stadium. What did you do? You feel like the fans being back for this game had an impact on the comeback?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think Incheon's always going to fight back. Like that's just, they're at their best when their backs are against the wall. But I think in this one, that second goal coming that quickly, I think was because they felt the fans behind them. They heard them behind them. And then, the defense playing as strong as they did because Busan needed these points. That would have had them safe. When they were up 1-0 and it looked like they were going to be able to do the thing, that would have been massive for them. So for Incheon to fight back and then hold on the way that they did, I think that does come down to the fans. And I think that shows how important it is to have fans in, even at a reduced capacity. And, I've said this online before, but like the Tetris side of my brain, the OCD side of my brain also really loves a perfectly distanced crowd, like just so evenly spaced. It's delightful. But they were making noise, man. I mean, like I said, reduced capacity, sure, but like they were loud as could be. And yeah, I think that really did have an effect. And they won't have that next week though, because they are going to be playing away. But I mean, interestingly enough, there might be more Incheon fans showing up at FC Seoul's home stadium, at Seoul World Cup Stadium next weekend. But the one that I want to get out of here with, and we are running a little bit long because there are all sorts of ridiculousness going on in the league right now. What's next for Busan? And Peter, you said, you lived there for a little while. You follow this team pretty closely. How do they bounce back? And can they? Because next weekend now, if they get a draw even and Busan wins, that would be enough. If Incheon win, then pretty much anything is fine. because Seongnam and Busan are playing each other. So I guess I'm saying what's next for Busan, but I guess a better question would be which of these three teams should be most concerned heading into next weekend?
Yeah, I think Busan should be most concerned. I mean, talking to the Busan supporters at the weekend, it's I think they're just so frustrated because they could see it coming. I think they were lucky to be leading that game going into half time, and they could see it coming, sitting back on the 1-0 lead. And with Eulji Hyun in charge, taking over from Cho Duk-jae, I mean, that's just not the kind of upheaval you need going into a relegation battle. And I'm a Barnsley fan. I've seen a lot of battles. What you do is you stick with your manager and just pray, even if it's a terrible manager. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Yeah, but I feel like Busan, they've got Lee Dong-jun as like a talisman who could create something from nothing. But the other teams, the talisman are just on complete form, such as Na Sang-ho. And Busan are just kind of limping towards the line, and I think they might rely on results elsewhere next weekend, hopefully. For them, Seoul can do a job for them and get them out of trouble.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see. All right. Like I said, we're running a little bit long. Exciting things going on in the league. I have no idea how we're going to even try to wrap this up next week. All sorts of things coming up. But we're going to take a quick break. We're going to get rid of Peter. We're going to bring in George Slade, and we're going to talk about K-League 2. We'll be right back.
FNR is a revolutionary football-dedicated digital platform, the first of its kind in Australia. It provides a 24/7 live online radio platform experience, podcast hub, and acts as a content provider for TV, radio, and digital. Having reached millions of listeners and football fans since launching, FNR is accessible worldwide via its website or app, providing a platform to discuss, debate, and celebrate the world game. We are your voice of football, FNR Football Nation Radio.
Welcome back to the K-League United podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Walters, joined by Matthew Binns.
Hello.
And welcome back. It's George Slade.
Hello.
Evening, gents. And George, you're coming to us live from the kitchen.
Yes. Yeah. There's no good angle. This whole apartment, there's nothing. So
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
This is a preview of the K-League Mukbang that we're going to have going at some point. Mukbang, for our international listeners, is when you watch somebody eat. I don't understand the appeal, but what I do understand the appeal of is K-League 2, and that's why we've got George here. But George, as I said from the off, I'm in a little bit of a mood this week. I apologize slightly, and on the note of apologies, Paul and I would appreciate a public apology from you on behalf of Bouchon for pushing Daejeon and Jeonnam back below the playoff line and allowing Yeongnam to win that game. So the floor is yours.
I'm sure you would. But they need to apologize to me and the Bucheon supporters first after this season. So, yeah, you think you've suffered from their results? Well, it's been a long season.
Yeah, 3-1 up for those that were unable to watch. I mean, because, man, the games, it was a really fun weekend. And especially if you're a Yeongnam fan, this one was all sorts of fun because this was 3-1 in the 85th minute, and then it finished 4-3. And George, the actual question that I have for you here is, surely this is it for Song Sun-ho. They're just seeing the season out because it's 2020, and what else are you going to do? But this has got to be it for him, right?
You would think, I mean, looking at his career, this is his worst season. He's been good most of the time. He used to be the Bucheon manager 2015 and 2016, and he finished 5th and 3rd. And then when he was the Ulsan manager in 2017, he finished 3rd. And last year, they finished 4th. So this is by far the worst season. So the only way I can imagine him staying is if he does a great, PowerPoint presentation and everything about his past and how trying to sell it as just a blip and, it's 2020 is a shortened season and maybe couldn't get the transfers from certain parts of the world all those types of things. So maybe something there, but do
you think there is any truth in that though? Because I mean, Bucheon snuck into the playoffs last year on a 5-match winning streak of highly entertaining stuff, and on their day they've been very entertaining. Is there any of that in there for him?
I don't think so. I think that Bucheon's problem this season is very clear. It's the attack. Defense has been normal. Like, they've conceded pretty much the same amount of goals as teams like Seongnam and Daejeon, and they're all in the playoffs. The difference is the goals scored. All those teams have scored about 30 goals, like a minimum. All the teams in the playoffs. Bucheon have scored 19, which is the second lowest. And if you compare that to last season, Bucheon's two top scorers, Marlon and Nilsson Jr., scored 10 each. So that's 20. So the whole squad has scored less, even though it's a shortened season, but it isn't good enough, really.
No. Yeah, no, that's not going to cut it. Yeah, we'll see from Bouchon. But if they could stop screwing over the Dragons, that'd be great. I'd really appreciate that. But the Dragons did that to themselves, and we'll talk about that because we got an early mailbag question. But Matthew, I'm going to bring you in here. And Jeju United, they won the match of the weekend in K2. They beat Suwon FC 2-0, which to me, they might as well lift the shield there. They can't because they still need a point, but it's all but technically over for Jeju. And we've talked about this team a lot this year. How impressive is this run from Jeju?
I mean, 14 games unbeaten by my count. Any team going that many matches without defeat is doing something right. Jeju do have the squad, though, and they've got the luxury of depth, and they've got a manager who knows what it takes to win this particular league. It has been very impressive, but I don't think people are raising eyebrows because people expected it of Jeju. They were a shock relegation last season, and the way they've rebuilt into a K1 side. They've invested heavily, and they look ready to go up and ready to survive relegation next season. And I think all credit to them. I mean, it's not quite confirmed, like you said. They've still got to get a draw, and they do have Seoul Eland coming to the island. Who this no joke. They did what Michael said they had to do last week. Michael was on the podcast last week saying that they struggled against lower teams, and they beat Ansan Greenis 3-0 really comfortably. And Seoul Eland also have a good track record against the teams vying for promotion to some degree. So
they've done well against Jeju. Yeah,
they could kick the can down the road for one more weekend, and Suwon FC might still get one last shot at it. But yeah, I think we're pretty much there with Jeju now. I don't see them tripping at this last hurdle. No. And we'll have to, that'll be a little bit of a postseason one with Jeju because I think it is all but secure there. And like you say, the way they built that team has been really interesting. And a lot of that I think is very interesting because they haven't really leaned on any foreigners for the most part. And so it's like Pohang all over again, 2013 Pohang. But George, we had a question come in from one Todd Wild. Never heard of him. He's watching on YouTube right now. Hi, Todd. And he's asking, do you think Bouchon would be better off bringing in a poacher or a playmaker?
Maybe a poacher, because I think that Bouchon have been quite good at getting into the final third. And there's, some players, like, for example, there's Barbio who's got, like, pace and things like that. So they've got some service going on. And, like, last season, they had An Tae-hyun, who's now at Sangju Sangmu, and he was providing lots of assists, and he will be returning halfway through next season, along with the old first choice goalkeeper, Choi Chol-won. So I think the factoring that they got that coming in, and the midfield is mostly quite strong. I think they just need someone whose job it is to score, someone who can just get in the right place at the right time and finish, basically.
Yeah.
So we saw a glimpse of that with the young guy, Jo Gung-yu against Seongnam, but maybe he's not ready, so maybe bring someone else in.
Yeah. Well, let's stick with the mailbag theme. He's watching live now as well. We've got Osri Furman coming in. He said this may cause Ryan grief. Thank you, Osri. This is a great start. But Jeonbuk messed up when they lost to Daejeon last week. I know. So do they have the mental fortitude to clinch the playoffs? And the same can be asked about Seoul Eland, Gyeongnam, and Daejeon. So George, I want to get your thoughts on this. Of the teams that are chasing the playoffs right now, and I would include Gyeongnam in that because it's K2. They're above the line now, sure, but it's K2. Crazy things happen. Which of them do you think is the most mentally prepared?
Well, Well, part of it is like you got to look at the fixtures that's coming up in these last two matches. Because the fact is, after this weekend, kind of no matter how bad anyone does, technically they're not out. You know, they're all that close together. It will go to the final day, and they all play each other. You know, it's like two very big matches. So it's a case of whoever's going to be good against the big team. So actually, maybe like Seoul Eland could do well, you know, and whereas like Jeonnam, they haven't lost against someone in the bottom half, so they should do well this weekend against Ansan Greeners. But one of the only teams they've lost to this season is Seoul Eland. So we could see some interesting switches around. But overall, I think it's hard. It's like everyone's got like a negative, really. Like, and then you got comparing like Seongnam and Daejeon. Who knows what will happen there? It could be like 5-5 or something at the end of that match.
Let's hope
next week. So yeah, I don't know who actually has like mental fortitude that can give them an edge. I think everyone's actually kind of level in their, you know, pros and cons with how they handle games.
Well, I'm gonna put you and Matthew on the spot here. I'll buy you a second by asking Matthew first.
Oh no.
Which are the last two teams that are going to make the playoffs? We know Suwon's in there. We know.
Yeah. I'm gonna say, I think it's going to be Gyeongnam. I don't know, just got a feeling, and I think Seoul Eland going to beat Jeonnam on the last day.
Well, it's been really fun having Matthew involved in the podcast more, but I think Paul and I will be hosting two-man booths from now on. It'll be fun. It'll be great. George, who's going to make the playoffs?
I just realised I did also exclude Daejeon, didn't I? So yeah, I've really. I'll leave that group chat.
I think I'll say one of them might be. I think I'll go for Seoul Eland for one of them because they do have this 2-point advantage, and so because of that, technically they could actually secure a place this weekend if they win somehow. If they win and two of the other teams fail to win, they could just be in it, and then the last day just be fine, really. So I'll go for Seoul Eland, just playing the odds of that one, and then I will follow and also go for Gyeongnam. I'm going to follow Matthew. I think I'm very sorry, just because I think they
don't worry,
will
George.
win against Daejeon. They will just win, I think, that match, and that will just be like the deciding match.
Yeah. George and I are going to start a rival podcast. Don't worry. Okay.
Well, as long as it covers K-League too, I'll still listen in. I think it's going to be Seoul Eland as well. I think they're going to get a point off of Jeju. I think that's going to be a draw this weekend because Eland needs it, and Jeju knows that a point will do. I think that'll be a win-win, and I think that's about where both teams are with it mentally. I think that's going to happen, and then of course the Jeonnam Dragons are going to get the fourth and final spot, or fourth place in the final spot, which means that they play their playoff game at Jeonbuk against Seoul Eland, which is a win for me. So really, there's no losing here at all. That's how it's going to play out. Otherwise, there would be more heartbreak in 2020, and we don't need that. But anyway, we're going to take a quick break. If you're watching here live, we're going to come back straight into the Eulji Lewis Mailbag. But if you're listening to the podcast, Paul Neat is going to be back on the other side of this break with an interview with Korean national team captain Cho So-hyun. You do not want to miss that. And if you are watching live and you want to hear that, just subscribe to the podcast. But for now, we are going to take a really quick break, and then we're going to come back with all five of us in a very, very full mailbag. We'll be right back.
Looking to spend some downtime with friends and fellow gamers in Seoul? Drop by Retro Game Bar. Located in Hongdae near Sangsu Station Exit 1, RGB is a retro game-inspired bar where you can play any and all types of games, test their bartenders' drink mixing capabilities, or watch a gamecast of your choosing. For those with a competitive side, sign up for monthly tournaments including Tekken, Mario Kart, and K-League United's FIFA competitions. Follow RGB on Facebook for tournament info and details on other events throughout the month. Mention that you're a fan of K-League United to their hard-working bartenders when you stop by for a starter shot to kick off the evening. Game on!
It is a pleasure to welcome to the podcast the most capped women's Korean international, West Ham United midfielder Cho So-hyun. So-hyun, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. How would you assess the season so far, and what are the team's aims?
It's been far from a satisfactory season so far. We only managed to draw once with 4 losses in the first 5 league games this season.
You were injured recently, weren't you? What was the problem, and is everything okay now?
지금 맨유 경기하기 전에 이제 2경기 정도 결장했거든요. Yes, I was rested for 2 games ahead of the Manchester United game because I picked up a hamstring injury and so I haven't played that many games yet. I'm almost recovered and I'm hoping to return to start in the next game.
있을 때는 선발로 뛰지 않을까 그렇게 생각하고 있어요.
Do you set yourself any personal targets with goals or assists?
아무래도 좀 도움이랑 득점을 하면 좋은데 포지션이 좀 약간 수비형 쪽.
Scoring goals would be amazing, but it is a bit difficult as I'm usually in a defensive role in the team. Instead, I hope I can help the team by providing 3 or 4 assists. As a team, we hope to stay higher in the table than where we were last season. We're preparing well to turn things around after the international break.
인터내셔널 캠프 끝나면 이제 그 다음에 반전을 노리고 있어요.
I want to ask you about squad numbers. You recently changed yours from 20 to 14 at West Ham. How important are they to a player?
제가 처음에 축구를 시작했을 때 받았던 번호가 14번이었어요. 그래서
14 is the number I was given when I first started to play football, and I used to wear it until I moved abroad. It reminds me of the mindset I had at a very early stage in my career, and I have lots of fond memories of winning trophies, so the number has a special meaning to me.
우승도 되게 많이 했었던 번호도 같이. 그래서 저한테는 조금 많이 큰 의미가 있는 번호예요.
How is life in England?
한국 생활하는 것보다는 영국 생활이 조금 더 맞는 것 같아요.
I think English life fits me better than Korean life. Here, I live by myself and I have plenty of time to myself away from football. In Korea, we're usually required to live together in a clubhouse, which I find frustrating.
제가 생각했을 땐 조금 한국 같은 경우에
I think Korean football has a bit of a slow tempo and less intensity in training compared to English football. In Korea, they tend to increase the intensity gradually. However, in England, there's always a competitive atmosphere created among the squad in training every day. The training is much more intense. We always wrap up our sessions with a small game that constantly encourages competition and it increases our match sharpness. In a game, Korean football tends to play possession-based football with passing play. But English football is more aggressive going forward. When there's space for one-on-one situations, more physicality is needed. So quick situation awareness and decision-making, physicality, and strong pressure are required on the pitch.
강도가 좀 다른 것 같아요. 빨리 체크해야 되고, 빨리 판단해야 되고, 빨리 우리 팀 선수를 봐야 되고, 그런 게 조금 여유가 조금 더 없다고 생각해요.
There are a number of Korean internationals over there now. Ji So-hyun, Jong Ga-ul, Lee Gun-min. Before COVID-19 came, did you see them quite often?
영국이 이제 집으로 사람들을 초대를 못 하고 있잖아요.
At the moment, due to the restrictions in place in England, we're not allowed to invite others over. Before then, I would have dinner with Chelsea player Ji So-hyun at our place. We usually try to see each other, but we can't see these days.
좀 많이 힘든 것 같아요.
As someone who has captained the national team, what do you think needs to happen for things to improve?
좋은 선수들이 좀 해외에 나가서 다른
I think more Korean players should go abroad and compete with other international players week in, week out to develop. I reckon Korean women players are skillful but lack international experience, physicality, and situation awareness and decision-making, mainly because of lack of international football at senior level. Of course, it would be difficult to adapt, but it'll ultimately help them develop.
생각해요.
Finally, do you see yourself returning to WK League one day?
이 부분이 좀 많이 고민이 되긴 하는데 저는 남자친구가 있는데
It's something I'm still thinking about. In fact, my boyfriend often says to me, one day you'll come back and play in WK League. But actually, that's not what I'm thinking. People around me also occasionally ask me, will you come back to Korea? But I say no. If I had to move, my destination would be Japan rather than Korea.
돌아간다고 생각하면 일본 정도 생각하고 있어요.
Okay, I see. Well, all the best. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll catch up with you later in the season.
들어가세요. 감사합니다.
Thank you. Bye.
Eulji Lewis is your neighborhood British bar and cafe located in the Old Jiro district of Seoul. Decorated in old English antiques and furniture for a true homely feel, you can enjoy homemade scones, cakes and afternoon tea during the day, and traditional British favourites like beef stew, English ale, and a fine selection of wines at night. Available for private parties or simply an evening out, Eulji Lewis is sure to become your favourite neighbourhood pub. Be sure to mention K-League United at the bar during your visit and you'll get 10% off your bill.
Welcome back to the K-League United podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Walters, joined by the fullest of mailbags that we've ever had. I'm with Matthew Binns, George Slade, Peter Hampshire, and Dan Croydon. And gentlemen, let's just hop into this. Matthew, what do we got this week?
All right. Okay, I was expecting a bit more pitter-patter, a bit more banter, but fine. We're straight into the mailbag. And at the top, it's Asri Furman with a question about Jeonbuk. And so it's for me. So you four listen. Jeonbuk just need a point to clinch it all. Do you think they deserve it? We haven't really talked about this, but yeah, there is a game. They haven't won it yet. It should be said. So they have got Daegu at the weekend, and they haven't versed a Cecina Daegu side.
This is the real choking hazard.
This could be the real choking hazard, and we're sticking it right at the end in the mailbag. That's where we're sticking it. I do think Jeonbuk have played a blinder by announcing Lee Dong-guk's retirement this week, because it's gone from Daeun scoring 2 goals to make 200 to Lee Dong-guk scoring his final K-League goals. But we'll be talking about more on that in the weekend preview with Paul Neat. But for Jeonbuk, do they deserve it? Well, do you think anybody else does? I mean, Jeonbuk would absolutely deserve to win this title this year, in my opinion. Jeonbuk have beaten every top 6 side at least twice this season. We heard on the podcast last week from Dan how good Ulsan were last year, stating that they won the most games last year. Ulsan did, and well, Jeonbuk have won the most games this year. So if we're going by that metric, so I guess it's what do you mean by deserve? Because it's probably it's probably a jab at the football. I'm imagining, but yeah, I think they do. Jeonbuk have beaten the teams they've needed to beat, and they've beaten the teams in the top 5. I don't think there'll be any qualms if they win it this season. But yeah, I mean, it's been a tight race.
All right, I want to do this just for fun. Yes or no answers only. Does Jeonbuk deserve it? George?
No.
Dan?
Of course not.
Peter?
Yes.
Oh, he's changed his opinion on Jose Marais. Big Jose Marais
tiebreaker here.
No, look, I don't know what the logic is, but Matt, did Jeonbuk deserve it last season? Because this is the exact same situation, right?
It's the same situation, and
they deserved it last season. I'm a big believer the table doesn't lie.
Exactly. So if we win, then we deserve it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that. It'd be undeserved. Ulsan have led the league for most of the season, so I think there's 2 worthy title chasers. Somebody's going to win it.
If Jeonbuk
someone else does deserve it. Got it.
Yeah, we both deserve it, but only one of us can have it. That's it. Yeah.
I'm gonna hard disagree. I think if Jeonbuk wins, they do deserve it because they win when it matters. They win ugly. They win when it matters, and they can get that done. If Ulsan does, yes, they've had the better season, but I'll keep this for another podcast. But playoffs solve all of this, but I'll keep that for another time. But I will say yes, they do deserve it if they win. Ugh.
All right. Well, another question to me from our very own John. I'm glad you're all here for this. No, it's a question to Matt and Peter. We've had a joint one, Peter. I didn't realize we were sharing the same address. A stint in Jeonbuk is the longest managerial period for Jose, and he is out of contract by the end of this season. Do you think Jeonbuk will sign a new contract with Jose, or what does Jose want to do? Where are you standing on him in general? I'll let you go first, Peter, because I know how much you love the guy.
Well, in general, obviously, my opinions are changing because we bumped into him on the weekend, a chance meeting. And off the field, lovely guy. Genuinely though, he seemed like a top man. He was asking about the family and stuff in COVID times, and seemed like a nice fella. And his mind was certainly on the game as well. He was saying one more for the title next time out. But I don't feel like they will sign him on a longer contract. I think they'll just let it peter out, because I think is easily replaceable. We know the setup that Jeonbuk have got, and it could be another manager quite easily to transition into that. And the style of play won't change much. They've got a settled squad with experienced players. And one thing at Jeonbuk is that I think's helped them this year is those players on the pitch like Lee Young, Son Jun-ho, they don't really need managing in a title race. They've been there before over the last 5 or 6 years, and they've won it plenty of times. They just need a lineup given to them, and they know what to do. But I don't think he'll stay, no.
We've kind of read my notes for the next mailbag question there, but cheers. No, I didn't. No, they haven't got any grounds to let him leave. Is the thing. I think he could be the first Jeonbuk manager ever to win a double. I imagine a contract extension is going to be offered out of courtesy at the very least. I think it's going to be up to him whether he takes it or not, whether he's still willing to stay in Korea. Because he has moved about a bit, sometimes of his own choosing and sometimes not. He's winning with this team, and with the state of the world right now, it doesn't make it exactly easy to switch jobs and switch locations. So it could also be more secure to stay in Korea, I guess. And yeah, furthermore, he's got the strikers he wants now. He got the signings he wanted in the summer in Barrow and Gustavo. Jeonbuk have looked better for the second half of this season. Providing there is an overhaul in the winter, then there could be benefits to keeping him.
And the ACL will be a factor as well, won't it, in November, if that goes ahead and things, because it wasn't a great start to the group stage. And maybe Jeonbuk will fancy someone with more ACL experience if it's a bit of a mess in November.
Oh, it's happening, Peter. It's happening.
The treble is on. Anyway.
No, I meant ACL.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, God, no. Oh.
Right, back into the mailbag. Move over, lads. Stop touching me leg. Who's that? Right. Clint Jones in the mailbag, the 94th minute. He is asking which team would be more successful. And it is another Jeonbuk one, but I promise you there are K-League 2 questions in here as well somewhere. But which team would be more successful? Jeonbuk with Kim Do-hoon in charge, or Ulsan with Jose Marais in charge? And I'm going to send this one to Dan first.
This is impossible, right? I mean, it's a really good question because it might actually show how much the manager's to blame and how much the players are to blame. I just think Jeonbuk with Kim Do-hoon. There's something about the players that they've got. They've been there so long. They've got that winning mentality. I don't think even Kim Do-hoon's questionable, pre-match chats could ruin it for them, unfortunately.
Speaking of pre-match chats, Jose Marais' half-time chat apparently, well, according to Yonhap News, only lasted 10 seconds. So I assume it was it was translated literally as "lads, it's Ulsan." But no, sorry, Dan. Sorry, Dan makes a good point there. I think if Jeonbuk had Kim Do-hoon and Ulsan had Jose Marais, I think the winner would be Kim Ki-dong with Pohang. But I think. Sorry, I'm so sorry. Jeonbuk, I think, like Dan just said, it's got the setup. Jose Marais walked into an already made setup. There wasn't an overhaul in coaches. Sorry, this is the boring bit of a lovely hypothetical question, but there wasn't like an overhaul in backroom staff. There were only one or two. Kim Do-hoon came in when Ulsan were looking to rebuild and restructure and brought in, I assume he brought in quite a number of his own staff. Would I be right in thinking that, Dan? Or?
Yeah, I mean, just further on last week, I mean, I defended the guy to the hilt, but he has taken us as far as he can. It's the very definition of taking as far as he can in terms of, it's exactly the same as last year, isn't it? He just cannot beat Jeonbuk. So,
or Pohang.
Let's change. Well, no, we've beaten Pohang. Pohang are nothing. They're nowhere. Yeah, they've made the ACL.
They took the title from you last year. They just got back into ACL. They're building. Pohang's Pete's pick for the title next year.
I had them down second place this year. They're underperforming.
Oh well, let's not look at my picks for Seoul. I put Seoul in second. Oh, they've not aged well in those tables. Anyway, let's dip into K2 now, and we have Paul Neat via the DMs sliding in via the DMs, 2-footed. Ryan, you can only choose 2 of these 3 scenarios. What would you do?
Okay, 2 of them. Okay.
Oh yeah, 2 of these 3 scenarios. So,
excellent.
Yeah. Okay. Jeonnam earn a place in the playoffs and win promotion. Ulsan win the title. Incheon go down and Seongnam survive. Well, that's the third one. Incheon go down and Seongnam survive.
Oh, I get to choose 2 of those?
Yeah.
Oh, well, Jeonnam's coming up, and shouldn't it just be 1? I'll say 1.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, you can say your 2, and then I'm going to then I'm going to make you choose 1 from those.
All right. And this is just because I have had my K-League needs a new winner hat on this weekend. I would honestly pick Ulsan wins the title because we desperately need someone else to lift that damn trophy. Internationally, this league is known as Jeonbuk's league. And that has to change if we're going to get casual fans into this, if we're going to have appeal internationally, it can't just be Jeonbuk winning all the time. We have to have different champions. And domestically, if we want people to get involved, they have to have a belief that their team can win. We have to have fans thinking that they can go into the season and that their team can win the title. So if I'm picking one out of this, honestly, as much as I love my Dragons, look, the downside is another year in K-League 2. K-League 2 is the party, gentlemen. K-League 2 is amazing. So I'm fine with that. I would love promotion. It'd be great. But to me, on a larger scale, I think getting a different champion, do we need it? And if we could follow it up with Pohang winning it next year, and then the year after that, Daegu just keeps doing the thing, and then they win the title. I mean, if we could just have different markets with their fans seeing their team lift trophies, the title specifically, not the FA Cup, I think that's going to be good for the league domestically and internationally. So that's what I would pick of those.
Well, I'm going to throw it to George as well. If Bouchon were ever in contention for the playoffs, would you go for Bouchon or would you want Incheon to win the K1 title? Bouchon promoted. I know they can't get promoted, but I mean, this is all hypothetical.
Yeah. Yeah, I would like to see Bucheon promoted. Yeah, as much as I like Incheon, it would just be the curiosity of how few points Bucheon get in K1. It's always.
But think of the games.
Yes, the games. But yeah, I think I would just like to see them go up and just see, because also, especially last year, Bucheon went through a period of they did well against teams that were better than them, and in a league where everyone's better than them, that could be interesting. There could be some surprises there.
They performed well in the FA Cup.
Not this year.
Not this year, but they did knock Jeonbuk out
a
few times.
Well, we have another question in the comments. It's coming in from Kevin Langdon, who's watching live on YouTube. So hi, Kevin. Kevin asks, would you say the stature of Korean football is growing? So it's a bit more of a wider Korean football question. Anybody would like to jump in with that one?
I mean, I think yes. Like, we were one of the first major leagues up and running this year. I mean, that game in May, I think. Well, I mean, we get messages from people all the time of like, I started following K-League in May when Jeonbuk played Suwon. So, I mean, I think yes, but for me, that's why it needs to be followed up with somebody else winning. But that's me. Pete, you haven't said anything in a while. What do you think?
Yeah, that opening game you mentioned, it's a shame it wasn't like a spectacle of a game, but we had 3 million people watching on Twitter at one point, didn't we? The live stream on the K-League live stream. So obviously, that's not going to sustain itself through a full season when you've got the Premier League coming back and leagues around the world. But I think overall, definite increased interest. Probably a bit of a skewed view because everyone knows we're into it, so people message us about it. But I think this year, I've had more messages from people I don't know, from strangers who are intrigued by the K-League.
I think Dan also has something you were going to add.
Yeah, I mean, if this is the first season they've watched it, then what a season to join in. You know, we've
Fair
got
point.
excitement at the top, excitement at the bottom. You know, the relegation battle at the moment is, you know, off the charts. It's crazy. And the great thing is now is with the fans back in, we're getting attention again because we've got the limbs, you know, that the video of Incheon, you know, that's blown up.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you couldn't ask for a better finish to the season. I think it's probably, you know, down to the split. It's kept it exciting. Yeah.
And it'll be something to share on social media next week when Cezinha bangs in a hat trick to win the league for Ulsan as well.
Well,
It's got to be Dayan.
tweeted out
Got to be
that
Dayan.
thing
Dayan
to,
getting his 200th.
No, I tweeted out that thing to say, what was it? Cezinha, we need your help. And I got that reply from Dayan saying we don't deserve the title. I think he was just miffed I wasn't asking for his help.
We've also got George with us, who is our Korean overseas expert columnist as well. So, George, more from because the question regards all Korean football. Like, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's definitely increased. Like for example, like what Peter said, you know, random messages from people, and you can see just from like the growing, you know, like traction of posts on social media, you know, increased comments and likes, and just in general, just every little thing has increased. It's not like a huge jump. It's not like K-League is suddenly world renowned in the same way as big European leagues, but it's increased. And I think that having the league open up before anyone else, pretty much, apart from some other ones like Belarus, for example, like that really helped. And then the entertainment factor has improved everything a lot. It's been a fantastic year for everyone to, you know, have their eyes on K-League first, I think.
Okay, well, I hope that answered your question, Kevin. We have one final question in the mailbag, then we do have to get out of here because we have gone very long today. So we've got a question in from Dejan Citizen FC Brazil. It's before the final round. Who was the MVP of this K-League season?
Kim Shin-wook.
Well, I mean, it is before the final round, I guess. If you really quite a bit before.
I would say that people can have their say on that because our fan vote awards are going to be coming out very soon. So that'll be out there. But yeah, sure. Let's go around real quick. Who's your MVP, Matthew?
Junior. I agree with all four nominations in both the official and the K-League United ones, which will come out this week. I think in the official one, I'm glad Son Jun-ho has been recognised in amongst them from a Jeonbuk perspective, because I think he's had a good year. But you can't overlook what Junior's done this season. I'd also say Cezinha, just because, you know, K-League Stafford Silver.
George?
Yeah, I'll go for Junior too. Like the Golden Boot winner doesn't ever have to automatically win Player of the Year. I don't agree with that, but it just shows how impressive of a season Junior had. Like for the majority of it, it was just ridiculous how many goals he was able to score in a shortened season.
Dan?
Yeah, for me as well, it's got to be. Sorry, Dan's jumping. I thought we were going by order of the screen. It's
different orders.
It's got to be Junior. It's almost a goal a game, isn't it? And he's well past 30. Incredible season.
Legs may not be what they used to be, but he's been number one all season. The K-League's Jerry Halliwell. It's Junior McGraw.
If just as a random question from myself that I'm just chucking in here, we've got 5 of us here today. Which Spice Girls are we? I just think that's maybe we leave that one for the comments when this pod is released, because I think it's time for us all to clamber out of this mailbag. I might fall over trying to do so, but yeah, we're out. And well, if you've enjoyed the podcast, if you enjoy what we do, you can find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all social media, and YouTube as well. All at K-League United. And if you want to support us, you can support us on Patreon. We have exclusive editorial pieces there, including Saturdays. And We do full player interviews and podcast extras. They're also on there. There are going to be some random boxes. There are random boxes that are ready to be sent. There's going to be some more that are going to be sent at some point as soon as we get past these postage restrictions due to the current pandemic. And tiers, if you want to support us, start as low as $1, $3, and $5.
That's right. And if you'd like to listen to this podcast live, you can do so every Thursday on Football Nation Radio down in Australia. And if you subscribe via iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, TuneIn Radio, or wherever you download your podcasts, you'll be entered into next month's K-League kit contest. We were supposed to do the Kim Min-woo kit giveaway live today, but we had way too many things on. I'll put it on social tomorrow. There's way too many things on. But for now, for the very full crew of Matthew Binns, George Slade, Peter Hampshire, and Dan Croydon, I'm Ryan Walters. Thanks so much for listening.
Kim Do-hoon.